The morning sun cast long shadows across my property as I pulled into the driveway after a week-long judicial conference in Washington. I'd been a federal judge of the Ninth Circuit for nearly 15 years, but my ranch in Montana was where I truly felt at home. The 20-acre property had been in my family since 1892, complete with the original homestead house, barn, and the beautiful wooden bridge my great-grandfather built across Willow Creek. As I stepped out of my SUV, something felt wrong. The usual sound of water trickling under the bridge was louder, more exposed. My stomach dropped as I walked toward the creek. The bridge was gone. Not damaged, not partially collapsed, completely demolished. Splintered wood lay scattered across the creek bed, and fresh tire tracks scarred the muddy banks. A bright orange notice was staked into the ground where the bridge's entrance had stood for over a century. My hands shook as I pulled the notice free and read, Notice of HOA violation remediation. Structure removed due to non-compliance with Meadowbrook Estates HOA Covenant Section 4.7. Unauthorized water crossings. Fine, $15,000. Appeals must be submitted within 10 days. Trent Blackwood, HOA President. I stood there, reading the words again and again, unable to process what had happened. Meadowbrook Estates was a new development that had sprung up on the adjacent property 2 years ago. When a developer approached me about buying a corner of my land, I'd refused. My property had never been part of any HOA, and I'd made that crystal clear to everyone involved. The bridge they destroyed wasn't just any structure. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It was protected under federal law, and they'd torn it down while I was gone. I pulled out my phone and took dozens of photographs, documenting everything with a methodical precision I developed over decades on the bench. Then I called Sheriff Martinez. Judge Hartley, Maria's familiar voice answered. Welcome back. What can I do for you? Maria, I need you to come to my property immediately. The HOA from Meadowbrook Estates has destroyed my bridge, the historic bridge, the one that's federally protected. There was a long pause. They did what? Within 30 minutes, Maria arrived with Deputy Chun. They stood at the creek bank, staring at the destruction with the same disbelief I'd felt. Judge, your property was never incorporated into their HOA boundaries, Maria said, reviewing something on her tablet. I'm looking at the county records right now. This is clearly outside their jurisdiction. I know. I replied, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. And that bridge was documented with the National Park Service. There are federal preservation laws protecting it. Deputy Chin whistled low. They really stepped in at this time. I want a full report, I said. I want photographs, measurements, witness statements from anyone who saw this happen. I'm going to need everything documented for multiple legal proceedings. After the Sheriff's Department finished their initial investigation, I drove to Meadowbrook Estates Community Center. The parking lot was full, apparently. It was monthly HOA meeting day. Perfect timing. Inside, about 40 residents sat in folding chairs while Trent Blackwood stood at the front, gesturing at a PowerPoint presentation about property value enhancement initiatives. He was a stocky man in his 50s, wearing a polo shirt with the HOA logo embroidered on it, his entire demeanor screaming petty authority. And that brings us to the Creek Beautification Project, Trent announced proudly. As you all know, we've been working to improve the aesthetic appeal of our community borders. This week, we successfully removed an eyesore, that old, rotting bridge on the adjacent property that was visible from Lot 17 through 23. Several residents applauded. I stood up from the back row where I'd been sitting quietly. Excuse me, Mr. Blackwood. He squinted toward the back. Yes? Are you a resident? I don't recognize you. No, I'm not a resident. I'm Judge Sarah Hartley, And I own the property where you destroyed my bridge this week. The room went silent. Trent's face flushed. Judge? Well, if you'd read the notice, you'd understand that structure was in violation of our community standards. Your community standards don't apply to my property, Mr. Blackwood. My ranch was never part of this HOA. You had no legal authority to set foot on my land, much less destroy a structure on it. A woman in the front row raised her hand tentatively. Trent, you said the property owner had been notified and agreed. I said no such thing. Trent snapped, then caught himself. What I meant was, the structure was clearly abandoned and... It was not abandoned, I interrupted, walking down the center aisle. It was actively maintained and regularly used. More importantly, that bridge was built in 1894 by my great-grandfather, Elias Hartley. It's been listed on the National Register of Historic Places since 1976. It's protected under the National Historic Preservation Act. The color drained from Trent's face. Historic. No one told me it was. Did you do any research before you destroyed it? I asked, did you check property records? Did you verify you had jurisdiction? Did you consult with anyone about the legal implications? We have authority over all structures that impact the visual corridor of our community, Trent stammered. It's in our covenants. Your covenants apply to your members on your property. My ranch is private property with a clear deed going back over 130 years. You've committed criminal trespass, destruction of property, and violated federal preservation laws. I paused, letting that sink in. I'm also curious. Where's the wood? That bridge was built from old-growth timber. That's irreplaceable. What did you do with the materials? A man in the third row shifted uncomfortably. Trent said we could take the wood for firewood. I've got a couple cords in my backyard. I made a mental note. So you've also dispersed protected materials from a historic site. Trent's wife, sitting beside him at the front table, grabbed his arm. Trent, what did you do? Nothing. I was trying to improve property values. That old bridge was bringing down the appeal of the lots near the border. Karen Whitmore from Lot 19 complained constantly. I don't care if the entire HOA complained, I said quietly. You had no right. Look, Your Honor, Trent said, try to regain his composure. I'm sure we can work something out. We'll pay for a new bridge, something nice and modern that fits with the community aesthetic. You can't replace what you destroyed, I said. That bridge was built by hand, using techniques and materials that don't exist anymore. It was a connection to my family's history and to the history of this region. And it was protected by federal law specifically because of its irreplaceable nature. Another resident spoke up. Judge Hartley, most of us had no idea about any of this. Trent handles all the enforcement decisions. He told us it was all legal. I understand that, I said, and I'm not here to threaten the community. I'm here because Mr. Blackwood needs to understand the severity of what he's done. Trent crossed his arms defensively. Fine. Sue me. Sue the HOA. We have insurance for this kind of thing.